It's no secret that every year it's getting harder to access new games. So if you're actually feeling like game prices are getting out of control, I've got some news for you. Because they are! And I'm sorry to say, they're going to get worse. But what makes these lovely games so expensive? Like, why are the same companies that sold games for $50 to $60 10 years ago now charging $70 and plus tax? Let's take a look. So here's the thing about game prices is, they always changed. But actually nobody stood up and said, hey, let's raise the prices from $50 to $60. So how do game prices go up? Okay, let's go back to the $50 era, back in the 90s and mid-2000s. Back then, game prices were at $50, and it was something accepted by all of the gaming companies. But at the Xbox 360 launch, things actually changed. In a bad way. That's when $60 became normal. And guess which company raised the price to $60 first? Of course, it was Electronic Arts. Well, it's not EA Games. It was 2K Games, which means Take-Two Interactive. We're going to get back to that later. Back in 2005, it wasn't that hard to adapt to the $60 price tag because the PS3 and Xbox 360 were promising a lot. I'm not going to go into that too much, but you can guess. They were better than today's consoles at launch. They came with live services and a lot of very cool features. And for 15 years, we stayed at that $60 tag until our nice friend Take-Two came back with another brilliant idea, which was increasing the game prices to $70 because of inflation and a couple other reasons. And yes, they were the ones who raised game prices to $60 back in 2005. So it's been almost 5 years, and things are just getting worse day by day. So the first reason is these Deluxe Scams. Basically, $70 is not a lot. I mean for the company. So there are a couple different reasons, but most of them are actually about the risks. So let's get into the game development process. As a game company, you would start making a game, and just to get a proper high-end game, the process would take at least 2 years. But even though you finish the game, it doesn't mean people are going to buy it. If it's not good, then people won't buy. That was one of the reasons why Telltale Games went bankrupt. Because of this, we started seeing a lot of live service games. They had a nice example to follow, like Apex Legends and Fortnite. They were free to play and people would spend tons of money on cosmetic items. But I guess what they misunderstood is that supply and demand was completely broken with service games. There weren't enough players to play those games and buy the cosmetics. Some of them couldn't even cover server costs and they had to shut down in their first month. And once they realized that, companies started looking for other ways to charge players extra, like deluxe editions, gold editions, early access, and of course, paywalls. So $70 is not enough to cover their risk, because if their next game fails, they might be in huge trouble. But why the companies even tried to make service games? Well, it all started with Fortnite. Since 2017, they brought in every possible celebrity and superhero, any Fortnite YouTuber, and tons of other people, and they made tons of money. And the thing is, they're still making money. So when a company prints cash, others might get jealous. And as we all know, Epic Games isn't even the most greedy company out there. We've got worse than them. So between 2018 and 2023, we saw a flood of service games, and most of them straight up bankrupted, and actually made things worse, because in the end, they lost money. And when you lose money, you've got to make it back, and the only way to do that is to go back to the old formula, but now they also had to make that loss back. And most of them didn't exactly that. That's why, after these companies lost their humble dollars on failed service games, we started hearing talks about raising prices again. For now, they're adding small microtransactions to their games, and even that economy is worth billions of dollars. Just imagine, Ubisoft added microtransactions to Far Cry 6, and it's a co-op game. That's how down bad they are. So right now, they're maximizing their profits. We've started seeing fewer physical copies of games, which basically forces you to buy digital, and that's exactly what they want. Because when you buy a game through a store, and even if you pay $70, it doesn't mean they're making $70. They have to pay fees to the store, cover transport, packaging costs, and even that nice little blue case costs money. So obviously, they'd rather keep all the money, but buying digital, it's not in the buyer's favor. For example, if you want to resell the game or trade it at your local GameStop, you can't. No physical copy means no resale or like trade-in. And when you buy digital, you're only buying a license. They don't guarantee you'll be able to play that game forever. It's up to Sony or whoever owns the platform. And if you're saying, this can't be real, it is real. And it's been like this since the day once, but we just started talking. A California law going into effect in 2025 will force companies like Steam to clearly tell customers what they're really buying. So yeah, it was like this before, but now people are actually noticing it because of this law, which means you're buying a license to play that game. You can play it, but they can take it away. And you might ask, has this ever happened before? And the answer is yes, it did. Ubisoft removed the crew from players' libraries after they shut down the servers, and they had every legal right to do that. The real problem? They're slowly removing the ability to own physical games, just to maximize their profits. And that brings us to... So actually, when it comes to this, we need to understand one thing. It's not up to the developers. They can't make games faster or lower the prices, so it comes down to the publishers and shareholders, because they're the ones in charge of pricing. But the problem is, they don't actually care whether the game is good or not. The only thing they're looking at is sales and profits. So if a company doesn't reach its sales goals or gets bad feedback from players, next time shareholders are going to get more involved in the game development process. And that just makes everything worse. Just look at what happened with Cyberpunk 2077. It's probably the best example of how rushing developers can completely backfire. Either way, developing games today is way more expensive than it used to be. So now shareholders are more hesitant when it's time to invest. And without that capital, you can't actually scale a game properly. So yeah, it's kind of a loop. But sadly, it's just gonna get worse. If you remember, I mentioned how game prices went up from $50 to $60 and then to $70. They were all published by Take-Two Interactive. We need to accept one thing: these guys are actually really good at setting the standard for prices. In the last 3 console generations, they were the ones who raised the price first. And now, we're heading into a new era. If you didn't know, Rockstar Games is owned by Take-Two, and these days, we've been hearing rumors that GTA 6 could launch at $100. I mean, is it confirmed? Nope, not yet, but it's probably true. With these leaks, what they seem like doing is they testing feedback. They want to see how people are reacting. Because if they really do set the price that high, they want to make sure the internet doesn't completely lose it. But once they do set the price that high, it's not going to go down. And before I end this, if you're curious about the sources that I used in this video, they'll all be linked in the description. And if you'd like to support, hit that subscribe button. For now, take care.